Hello and welcome to this special podcast on Chakra News. I'm joined today by my colleague Colonel Anurag Avasthy, and we're going to be speaking with General P.R. Shankar. Hello and welcome to this former Director General Artillery. He's of course professor at the IIT Madras. We're going to be speaking about Prime Minister Modi's Independence Day address at the Red Fort on the 15th of August. A very, very interesting speech. It's one of the longest. It is, in fact, the longest speech that he's made from the ramparts of the Red Fort, over 100 minutes. He spoke extensively, primarily on the need for being Atmanirbhar or self-sufficient in all aspects of the economy, whether it is national security, defense hardware, microchips, and even social media platforms. So I'm here joined by these two very eminent panelists, and we're going to be trying to unpack the importance of what the Prime Minister really said yesterday. It's an unusual speech because it comes at a time of enormous geopolitical churning. I mean, just a few hours back, we saw President Vladimir Putin flying into Alaska, Anchorage, where he met President Putin. It's President Putin's first visit to the United States in a decade. And it's the first summit meeting between a US president and an American president in over 4 years since the Russia-Ukraine war began. I mean, this is a war that, as we know now, thanks to the American tariffs, India is really a part of. And that tells you how interconnected the world is. The world may be, becoming round once again, moving away from the flat earth that we all thought it was, the interconnected global village where everyone sang Kumbaya many decades ago. It's now becoming round once again. Nations are pursuing their own interests. And of course, India's primary interest, India's primary focus in the years ahead from 2025 to 2047 at least, seems to be to become self-sufficient in all aspects that impact national security. General Shankar, welcome. It's so good to be talking to you once again, Colonel Avasthy. Decode for us what you thought were the big takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech. Very unusual speech where he went into the specifics of defense platforms, where he spoke about jet engines and, of course, the Sudarshan Chakra, which you're going to be talking about a little later in the show. But, explain to our viewers what you thought were the big takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech.
Thanks a lot, Sandeep. At the outset, a very good morning to everyone who's watching this podcast, whether he's on Ganashot or Chakra News. And it's a matter of honor that, Sandeep and I are hosting this first live telecast of Chakra. And like all good things, Murphy's Law kicked in right at the beginning. And it happens. But coming down to serious issues, which, I thought, for a prime minister to go into the way he did issues was something which has never been done so far in our history. I've been hearing the talks of all prime ministers, including Mr. Modi, earlier also. But he touched on things which have never been touched before. He spoke of no nuclear blackmail. He spent some time on Pakistan, reiterated that Indus Water Treaty will, be where it is, suspended. He spoke of Atmanirbharta, and that is very important. He spoke of Atmanirbharta. His major stress was on Atmanirbharta, and not only for capability development, but for operational sustenance as a nation. Right. And this coming from a prime minister is very interesting and important. Then he spoke of technology, the thrust that we have to be self-sufficient in technology. Atmanirbharta is the underlying theme. Then he spoke of energy in terms of solar, in terms of green hydrogen. And very interestingly, he spoke of nuclear energy multiplying 10 times.
Right.
Now, if nuclear energy has to multiply 10 times, then our thorium cycle is coming to fruition. Otherwise, it can't go 10 times because we are a country which is deficient in uranium. So I thought that was very, very, very interesting. Then, of course, he spoke of space, how we have to, get hold of the space frontier. Then you, like you said, jet engines he touched, critical minerals. And where we are searching in India at about 100 odd places for critical minerals. And mind you, we have adequate critical minerals in where our thorium reserves are there. But it is those high earth, heavy rare earth elements which we are now searching for. But having said that, as far as rare earths are concerned, we have adequate. What we need is technology, and I'm sure things will fall in place.
Right.
Then he spoke of how he is going to be steadfast against Trump tariffs and protect the farmers and dairies and fishermen and all that. No compromise on that. I thought that was a great strategic message again. Swabiman was the theme in there. Then, of course, he spoke about China. Very interestingly, he kept quiet about China throughout. He didn't
Yeah,
say
yeah.
anything about China.
Uh-huh.
But
China
he
and of
left
course
one.
Pakistan he never mentions.
Pakistan, he spent a lot of time, but China, he didn't talk too much.
Right.
But in between, when he spoke of Naxalism, he also said Maoism is dead. Maowadi
Right.
mar gaya. Or,
Right.
word Nidhan ho gaya, And you're talking of Xi Jinping who's reverted back to Maoism.
Right.
So there's a
Right.
subtle message which has gone from somewhere. Look, if
Yes.
China pursues Maoism, it's a no-go. Then he spoke of demography and the need to curtail illegal immigration. I
Right.
thought that was all very good. Then, of course, Sudarshan Chakra was the big talk, and
Right.
that is something we need to discuss because he's given a huge plan till
Yes.
2035. It's amorphous, and we need to understand the nuts and bolts of this, at least the outlines. Uh, the big thing is the focus on strategic autonomy comes through Atmanirbharta.
Right.
But
Right.
equally, you need to put in money. So somewhere India has to find the finances for all this. I think there's a whole package. Though we'll speak of Sudarshan Chakra,
Right.
I think Anurag also should give his views on what
Right,
the
right. No,
whole.
absolutely. And I'm going to bring in Colonel Avasthi in on this because there's one very critical aspect which the Prime Minister touched upon, which Colonel Avasthi is a domain expert on, and that is semiconductors. And Colonel Avasthi, you're like a domain expert on semiconductors and rare earths. Tell us the importance of what the Prime Minister said when it comes to the National Semiconductor Mission. Where are we really at getting our own indigenous chips?
Thanks, Sandeep. Firstly, it's a very humbling moment to be associated with General Shankar and Gunner Short. One has been following Gunner Short for a very long time, Sandy. And what a privilege it is, sir, to be on the same portal as you are today. Very kind of you to be here on this. See, whatever General Shankar has said, I think it resonates with I think all of us. But I will give you a very different take on the subject. I think of whatever he spoke yesterday, what General Shankar brought out extremely lucidly is that he is now looking at breaking these silos. He
Right.
does not want, a governmental approach or an organizational approach. Now, I think he's looking at all of nation approach towards a lot of things. That is the first message which I could decipher out of whatever he said, because the subjects that he spoke about yesterday were rather myriad, but still interconnected. That is one. The second thing, in so many years, this has been his 12th address from the ramparts of Red Fort. No prime minister, at least I have seen in so many years that I've been listening to on the 15th August, live telecasts of the prime minister speaking to the nation, has anyone spoke so explicitly about a military project from the ramparts of the Red Fort.
Right.
So
Right.
this is a very, very important, your understanding that a lot of people need to have. That is two. The third thing, which a lot of people have glossed over, while the speech was extremely erudite and all encompassing, is that he has requested the Indian tech community to develop a tech stack of its own.
Right.
That is a critical message which he's giving the nation, that look, you want to be atmanirbhar, very good. You want to do this, very good. We need to reach here by 2035, very good. But then you cannot be dependent on the tech stacks of the others. So please develop a tech stack of your own, because you already have the demographic dividend and the expertise which is there in the country. He spoke explicitly about semiconductors. There's been a lot of chatters, Sandeep. Yesterday, you would see that, why was this not done and why was that not done? But then, be that as it may, a lot of things have happened in the last round. See, this Indian semiconductor mission came in the December of 2021, got
Right.
tweaked in the October of 2022. It's just about 3 years. In 3 years, you have 10 facilities which have been, approved by the government of India. Whether it is discrete semiconductors, whether it is critical electronics, whether it is packaging, whether it is advanced packaging, whether it is one single fab which is not going to be coming up at Dholera. But the unfortunate part is a lot of people seem to be in a major rush. You cannot build these facilities as of day before yesterday. It takes
Right.
time. These facilities take a lot of energy, time, expertise, various collaborations. No country is an island anymore. You need a lot of collaborations which have to happen. So I think it's a job well done with the Indian Semiconductor Mission, and all we need to be is a little patient. And as I always opine, insofar as the rare earths are concerned, which you just mentioned, if you recall, I started writing on them in 2022, because they're
Right.
going to be the new oil. And I'll go back, and General Shankar would bear me out, sir. If we go back to 1987, and if you remember Deng Xiaoping, he opined, and I quote, "If Middle East has oil, we have rare earths." How profound was that statement? So many years ago in 1987. And as Jan Shankar has also said, we hold 6% of the rare earths of the world. So it's
Right.
just a question of time, how you mine them out, how you process them, how you use them, how you transport them, how you get into the global supply chains, and how exactly do you integrate with the world. So I think the speech in itself was, I think, an all of nation approach yesterday, and I think one of the
Right.
most outstanding speeches by the Prime Minister, Sandeep.
Right, right, absolutely. But you mentioned the thing about time, Colonel Avasthi. Now, I'm going to ask General Shankar whether we actually have that kind of time. Time is a luxury. I know, we've lost a lot of time over the last couple of decades. I mean, we were focusing on toilets, at a time. We should have done that a long, long time ago. So I'm just saying that our national priorities, whether it was universal education, healthcare, sanitation for all. I think we seem to have taken a couple of hits there. But do we really have the luxury of time anymore, General Shankar? Given the fact that the jet engine, for instance, that's a national priority. We are lagging behind the rest of the world. Even China has struggled with the jet engine. They're only getting there now after several decades. All of these technologies, as Colonel Avasthi pointed out, they take time to mature. Is there some way that you can hasten the process?
Well, the way I look at it, I think we have the time. That's the first thing which I want to put on the table. And this is probably a bit of a contra view. Why? Today, the way the world is changing and the way things are happening, it gives you time. Everything is unsettled. No one is at the peak. Someone might have one part of the technology, but you have the other part of the technology. I mean, look at semiconductors. You don't have the hardware, but you have the software for semiconductors. Today, the world can't live without India for semiconductors. You are a fabulous semiconductor power. 20% of the packaging of semiconductors happens in India. So we have our own strengths. So to that extent, we are not. The second thing is geopolitically, USA is in a lurch.
Right.
China is declining demographically and economically. So it's not, and military issues are there. Internal problems are too many. So it gives you a window of opportunity to catch up. But having said that, we need to shift our focus. What's happened, you can't undo that. So you need to up your focus on certain things. And I think in every nation's journey, there comes a time when things have to change. And I think India has come to the time where we have to change. It's not good enough being the fourth largest economy. From being the fourth largest economy to the third largest economy, or probably the second worst, we don't know. But at least this jump will not come about by normal consumption and normal doing things. It will come through technology. And I think the Prime Minister has identified that. And if a Prime Minister's focus is technology, I'm sure something will happen and something good will happen. So I'm very, positive about this whole thing. In a country like India, we couldn't have done it faster. Let's look at the political issues. Let's look at the social issues, the societal issues. So I think we are okay. The good thing is that we've realized where we are. The challenge is we have to put money and effort into achieving what we can.
Right, money and effort indeed. And I want to come to this point about the Sudarshan Chakra. I think a lot of our viewers will be very interested in knowing your views, and of course, Colonel, obviously you have your views as well on this. Both of you are domain experts, practitioners, former practitioners. I'm a theorist, but General Shankar, as Colonel obviously mentioned, it's probably the first time that a prime minister has mentioned the capabilities of a military platform or a military system from the ramparts of the Red Fort. What he thinks that it should do, the capabilities that he is envisioned for the Sudarshan Chakra. Should we listen into that clip first before we proceed?
I think we must. Let's go ahead.
टेक्नोलॉजी का विस्तार हो रहा है, टेक्नोलॉजी हावी हो रही है, तब राष्ट्र की रक्षा के लिए, देश के नागरिकों की सुरक्षा के लिए हमें भी, हमने जो आज महारत पाई है वो महारत का और विस्तार करने की जरूरत है। हमने आज जो महारत पाई है उसको लगातार अपग्रेड करते रहने की आवश्यकता है। और इसलिए साथियों, मैंने एक संकल्प लिया है, मुझे आपके आशीर्वाद चाहिए, कोटि कोटि देशवासियों के आशीर्वाद चाहिए, क्योंकि समृद्धि कितनी ही क्यों न हो, अगर सुरक्षा के प्रति उदासीनता बरतते हैं तो समृद्धि भी किसी काम की नहीं रहती। और इसलिए सुरक्षा का महत्व बहुत बड़ा है। और इसलिए मैं आज लाल किले की प्राचीर से कह रहा हूं, आने वाले 10 साल में 2035 तक राष्ट्र के सभी महत्वपूर्ण स्थलों, जिनमें सामरिक के साथ साथ सिविलियन क्षेत्र भी शामिल है, जैसे अस्पताल हो, रेलवे हो, जो भी आस्था के केंद्र हो, उन्हें टेक्नोलॉजी के नए प्लेटफॉर्म द्वारा पूरी तरह सुरक्षा का कवच दिया जाएगा। ये सुरक्षा का कवच लगातार विस्तार होता जाए, देश का हर नागरिक सुरक्षित महसूस करे, किसी भी प्रकार की टेक्नोलॉजी हम पर वार करने आ जाए, हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी उससे बेहतर सिद्ध हो। और इसलिए आने वाले 10 साल 2035 तक मैं ये राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा कवच का विस्तार करना चाहता हूं, मजबूती देना चाहता हूं, आधुनिक बनाना चाहता हूं। और इसलिए भगवान श्री कृष्ण से प्रेरणा पाकर के हमने श्री कृष्ण का जो सुदर्शन चक्र था, उस सुदर्शन चक्र की राह को चुना है।
Yeah.
Your thoughts,
I thought that was-
Shankar. Missile shield, ballistic missile defense shield with the IACCS++. What is the Prime Minister describing here?
I think it's beyond that. He's talking of a Sudarshan Chakra as a kavach. And that kavach is not only for military installations, it's also the civil, it's for the nation as a whole. And he's talking of a 10-year time frame. And he's spoken of technology and use of technology, various kinds of technology. We don't know how things will pan out. I mean, when I say we don't know, what kind of new threats will come in the next 10 years? After all, who thought that 3-4 years back, drones will be such a threat? Whoever thought that missiles will take over the battlefield the way they did? So, So I think he's looking into the future. To look at it as just the IACC plus, a
PMD.
dome,
Yeah.
I think we would be wrong. I think we have to look beyond that, far beyond that. To give you an outline, I think we have to first identify the threats. Those threats could be kinetic or non-kinetic in nature. Right? When you say Suraksha Kavach, it's just not from the air, it's from everywhere else. So that's the first thing. Now, if you want to have that kind of a threat, and these threats could emanate from space, they could be aerial in nature within the atmosphere, they could be on ground, they could be cyber threats, and they could be underwater threats. The domain of this threat is, completely this thing. And they could also be internal threats. Let's not rule that out. So many of these threats which emanate from outside are, have some base internally. So I think this is important, kinetic, non-kinetic. So how do you go about this? So the first exercise I think would be to assess what these threats could be 10 years hence. So you have to see what are the technologies which are developing, how these technologies will manifest themselves as threats to all of us. And then we have to identify which are the technologies, which are the systems, which are the system of systems which we will have to deploy in different places. For example, an airport will require a different kind of a protection, vis-a-vis a hospital which will require a different kind of a protection. And probably the ultimate threat being the nuclear threat as to how do you protect the people from nuclear threats with underground bunkers and all. For example, in countries which have extensive metro networks, the metros itself are, nuclear bunk
Right.
protection.
The underground metros. Yeah.
Underground metros, and lot of our cities are going underground with underground metros, and many, in fact, the number of lines which are blooming across the cities and where already metros are there are huge. So you have to do a whole lot of networking of all these and putting them on one synchronization of all these things. Then there is the issue of, okay, you identified the threats, then you need a ISR for it, and you need integrated network ISR. So that means you need monitors in space, air, ground, everything. Wherever the threat is coming, you should have the capability to detect that threat and detect that threat well in advance. You see, the normal way of thinking of an iron dome plus a network system, which is there for wars, will not probably work, because as we go into asymmetric and hybrid kind of a warfare system, you need to be, and you're looking at kinetic and non-kinetic warfare, and also people operating in the gray zone. This has to be a 24/7 coverage 10 years hence. You also probably have to protect your networks, which is cyber. So I think there's a whole lot of thing. And the next thing is the protection part. Once you know, then how do you protect it? And how you make them survivable? Because it's not as if every threat has to be just bashed out. You can make your systems resilient against these threats, so that you have sustainability. Your operational recuperability is there. Even if you get a hit, you should be able to function. And you need to have alternate networks, alternate systems. It's like a metro network. If one line gets blocked, you go with the other lines.
Right.
So a gridlocked kind of a system. I think it is much more than just a military affair.
Right.
This needs a whole lot of civil military fusion.
Right.
This needs a whole lot of funding. But the good part is funding and civil military fusion will give you many offsets. I wouldn't say, when I say offsets, it will kickstart your economy.
Right.
Yeah. The secondary effects and the way it will kickstart your economy is huge, because everything is technology biased. So you're going to invest in technology. These technologies will have secondary effects in other fields as well as your own. So you are doing this will be a very holistic thing. if it is put in place well.
Right.
I don't think the armed forces alone are capable of doing this. I don't think it's the or the home ministry, or if you do it by rote, this will not take off. This
Right.
has to be done at something like what Niti Aayog was envisioned. There's a
Right.
National Institute for Transforming India. I think
Right.
Sudarshan Chakra should have a larger overview of body,
Right.
which apportions things to people, can stitch technologies together,
Right.
can everything. Of course, the armed forces here have to be a big part of this bargain.
Yes. Because the kinetic parts will be manned
Would be
by the
with,
armed forces.
with the armed forces. The integrative parts will be with the armed forces,
Right.
right? And I think in a way you have to also look at this Kavach should also handle things like COVID tomorrow.
Right.
After all, in COVID, you did have something coming like this.
Yes.
So it is just not one dimensional. If we
Right.
do this one dimensionally, we've lost the way.
Got it.
We've
Yes,
lost the
absolutely.
way.
And in fact, I'm going to bring in Colonel Avasthi on this. A
Yeah.
fascinating take from General Shankar on this. And when he was speaking about the how big the system could really be, I was just thinking about that fable of the blind man and the elephant. They're feeling different sides of the elephant. And
Yes.
yesterday, of course, we all thought it was a ballistic missile defense with the IACCS building on the Op Sindoor, model where they were successfully used to intercept drones and missiles. But Colonel Avasthi, since you're also in the civil-military fusion, like General Shankar, give us your thoughts on this. What is the kind of organization that would be needed to put a vision as extensive as the one that General Shankar has outlined? I mean, if you're going to be protecting a country as large as India, there has to be huge, capacities for civil military fusion of the kind I don't believe exists currently. Right? We have small organizations here and there, but something like this with civilian military aspects to integrate all of this on a national scale. Give us your thoughts on this. How is this going to happen?
Right, Sandeep. I think General Shankar brought out the main points. I think the theme here, which remains central to what the Prime Minister has said yesterday, is the civil-military fusion.
Right.
So, Viditini, see, firstly, it is also the timing. Today happens to be Janmashtami.
That's right.
So
Yes.
yesterday itself, when the Prime Minister said it's Sudarshan Chakra, so it's very, very, symbolic that Lord Krishna would be invoked in whichever manner it is. And well, it is Mahabharata time in the
Right.
geopolitics in the world. So
Right.
that's
Of course.
one. The second part is you would have also seen yesterday that India has issued a NOTAM in the Bay of Bengal with ranges beyond 4,750 kilometers.
I was going to ask General Shankar that. Yeah, that's right. That's a
So
really
that
long missile we seem to be testing.
So that itself, should give you an idea as to what are the ranges that we are looking at now.
Right.
And what Jan Shankar said is very clear. See, it is not just a ballistic missile shield. It is not some iron dome. What
Or a golden dome, as Trump calls it.
yeah. So what the Israelis do, because see, you have to look at Iron Dome also with a little different eye. The Iron Dome doesn't look for very long ranges because it
Right.
is littoral. You are not looking at longer ranges. Firstly, what I personally feel is that post Sindoor, a lot of lessons have been brought out, and I'm sure the Prime Minister is aware of what are the lessons. And this time, by God's grace and by the prowess of the Indian air defense, no population centers were targeted.
Right.
But I think the establishment has begun believing, especially with the irrational money down the border, or the irrationality that is being now brought out, that there would be a case of these facilities which also would come into play at a later stage, because one doesn't know what that failed state and that failed marshal wants to do at some stage. And it's a rentier state. You and I know
Right.
it, right? So
Right.
you don't know what it is going to be doing.
Right.
So I think that is something which has now invoked a lot of interest in the government and the security establishment alike.
Right.
That is
You're
one
right,
very
because
important
I'm
point.
just Sorry, Colonel Avasthi, I'll just interrupt you to just read that one line from the Prime Minister's speech where he says that Pakistan has attacked our military bases, our air bases, our sensitive places, our places of worship, our citizens with missiles and drones in countless numbers. So that kind of, bolsters your point. And of course, what General Shankar was saying, that this is actually a, all of nation kind of protective
Yes.
shield that he's talking about.
Yes, yes. So to begin with, if you hear his speech, firstly, the most important part is that he has recognized that there are going to be hybrid threats in the future. It is just not going to be very, very conventional as we look at it. Now, since it has been recognized that there will be hybrid threats in the future, he's also very clearly looking at ranges. When he says that there's going to be a kavach over not only the civilian installations and military installations, but various other installations which are essentially public installations like the hospitals, etc., etc. This essentially means an integration or a lot of ministries, so to say. And now newer organizations will come up as I foresee it. But while it looks very simple, Sandeep, it is going to be a very challenging thing to do, to integrate a lot of issues which are going to be multi-domain. When you're looking at multi-domain, you're looking at the triad insofar as the armed forces are concerned. You're looking at the civil military fusion. You're looking at civil facilities. You're looking at cyber. You're looking at non-kinetic. You're looking at various issues which are even transportation systems. You're looking at various issues of space. We are looking at various issues of the internal defenses insofar as you are concerned for shorter ranges, medium ranges, longer ranges. All this integration, what the timeline that he's set for 10 years, I think looks absolutely all right. But I have a feeling that we have the capacities to do this. We really have the capacities to do it. Where I find we will, where we would require a little more impetus and a little more push by the government of India is to somehow get this cultural issue and this turf issue out of the way. The moment we get this cultural and the turf issue out of the way from between the various of agencies that operate, and you to get them into a whole of nation approach itself is an effort. If that happens, I think you won the game for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And turf issues are moot to this question because General Shankar, even within the armed forces, it's been such a struggle to get the theater commands going because three services can't seem to agree on the character and the composition of the unified commands, the theater commands. So how much of a challenge is this going to really be when you're looking at multiple agencies, civilian agencies, military establishments, integrating all of this? Do you think it's going to be one more gigantic PMO-run program?
Well, if it is a PMO-run program, it will fail. Let's be very frank. Right? We can't. And the way the number of turfs which are there in our country and the number of ministries who compete with each other will not go through the normal way. So you have to find a via media. The way I look at it is either a new ministry is formed for this or a empowered task force is formed. A task force with clear ideas as to what, look, this is what is going to be achieved out of this. And this is the budget and go. And these are technologies. So I think, in fact, if 10 years to my way of looking at it for what the Prime Minister has outlined is too short. Right? And if it has to be achieved in 10 years, it has to be done by an empowered group. And that empowered group has to have a large component of the armed forces. And where this armed forces come in and fit in and how the whole thing comes is the challenge. But look at it slightly differently, right? And the challenge is, of course, the whole lot of disparate people who are going to come into the kitty. But the advantage we have is 1 minute. Sorry. But the advantage we have as a nation is we've done this through COVID.
Right.
In some form, you have a structure in COVID. That's the first part. And the second is you've gone through a operation called Sindoor, where you tackled many myriad things. It's not easy for us to have handled this. Uh, it might just be it might have just been a 4-day event, but it has given you a lot of things in terms of how your own technology can be put to use. The confidence of Ops Sindoor can be carried into this, right? And the third thing is that as a nation, we have evolved quite a bit by working together, especially in reducing this naxalism and counterinsurgencies and all that over a period of time. You see, if you go back in time, the counterinsurgencies, the militancy, and all that from whether J&K, Northeast, and the Red Corridor which existed was horrible. And horrible is a nice word to use the way we are in. And I'm not going very far back. I'm just going about 10, 12 years back. But today you see a big change which has come about. And that change has come about just by a joint approach in any manner, whichever way. Today, everyone realizes the threats are different because these threats are playing out in front of every man's eyes. Whether it's in the Israel-Iran war, or in Russia-Ukraine, or in our own case, and where we have actually in the past 8-9 years, we have gone through 3-4 skirmishes with China, 2 or 3 with Pakistan, which we've never had. The form of warfare is changing. So there is a understanding amongst our people, right? Whether they are in bureaucracy or in private sector or wherever, that look, the way India has to do business has changed. And there's also a thing that everyone is a stakeholder, because if there's a business which is growing, he would like to contribute to this defense so that because he gets value out of this defense, this kavach. Okay. So if that is why I said you need to have a vision, a task force which will create equities for everyone to participate. If it is you create turfs for everyone to compete, this will never go through. But if the task force creates equities for everyone to participate, where everyone has a takeaway from this system, right? Even the technology has a takeaway. Even the people who are in the services sector have a takeaway. They will need a takeaway, right? Tomorrow, you can't have your complete railway system collapsing or your air system collapsing. 10 years from now, you're going to be one of the biggest users of airspace, civilian airspace, right? And that needs protection. It's just not just that. Even 2-3 air accidents triggered externally through some method is a national catastrophe. So the equities for everyone are huge, are very huge. You have to look beyond your borders. You have to look into space. If we go by what the Prime Minister said, I think we need to look at much beyond what the normal thing is, right? Of course, if it is just only an Iron Dome kind of an affair, then you leave it to the Forge and they'll do it. Give it to the CDS.
Yeah, that exists. That my system, of course, exists. We know of the DRDO testing several ATBM systems.
Yeah. And of course, now that you mentioned DRDO, DRDO is itself an interest group. This interest group shouldn't hijack the whole process. I think the success or failure of this is how do you put everyone on the same platform?
Right.
We have experience. Can we draw? We have the expertise. Can we put them together? And of course, money will come. For a growing economy, this will be a self-generating kind of a thing. Money will come.
Right.
And also certain amount of equities can be built internationally. Right. There's a lot of people who trust India. So if you get international equity, yeah, I think then we have something going. Yeah.
Right. So, Colonel, obviously, where do you see as the start point of the sea? You've dealt with government. You're a public policy expert. Where do you see as the start point for this? Will there be a committee set up? I mean, of course, the government loves to start everything with a committee, but where do you see the start point of all of this?
Sandeep, what General Shankar has said is absolutely profound, which says that, you need to have a task force which
Yeah,
starts firstly making a blueprint and then puts it into action. But, one great thing about democracies all over the world is something we should not gloss over. While there's a huge amount of strength in democracy, all changes in all
yeah,
democracies have to come from top down.
right,
So nothing starts from bottoms up, because bottoms up peters out after some time. Now it has
right,
come from top down. So since it has come from top down, it will happen. That is one. So it's that it's that profoundness of hope over fear of failure, which
right.
I think all of us work on. I think at least all three of us work on that. So it is top down. So it will be driven. The second part is, I have a feeling that in this entire strategic equity, what Shankar brought out, which is the most important linchpin of this entire endeavor, we will need to push in a lot of diaspora connect, Sandeep,
Right.
because our diaspora today at 140 crores, and everywhere and anywhere. I mean, if you see the statistics, even in the United States, the highest number of people who have created billion-dollar companies in the United States are Indians,
That's right.
much more than the Chinese, much more than anybody else in the world, much more than the British. So, if we need to look at this holistic approach with a civil military fusion, get the diaspora connect properly, push it top down, get the interministerial thing going extremely seamlessly, a lot of things can fall into place in the next 10 years. Now, how it is going to manifest, I mean, it's a question of time. One has not seen how it is going to be, because there are going to be disruptions. There are going to
Right.
be disruptions in terms of various threats. There are going to be disruptions in terms of, see what is happening, tariffs. I mean,
Yeah.
it's finally, whether we like it or we don't like it, it's a disruption. So whether it is an economic disruption, whether it is a littoral disruption, whether it is a supply chain disruption, whether it is a internal disruption, all these disruptions will happen. So how we tailor make this system, which is run top down, which is disruption proof, and yet has the mandate for a larger amount of time to get the things done, is going to be a challenge, which I think needs to be sorted out at the highest level and then pushed down. So this is my view on that. I think we have the capacities, we have the demographic dividend, we have even the technical edge.
Right.
Uh, Whether you have it here, whether you get it from the diaspora that you have outside. But my only submission to a lot of people today would be that in case this has to fructify in the next around 10 years, 12 years, whatever the time it is, we need to increase the GDP that we spend in the R&D in this country. What we spend in the
Right.
R&D is very, very abysmal. It needs to increase, even if it is at a cost of another thing, or another sector. But till you put in more money, as General Shankar's brought out very clearly, it's a function of money, right? R&D is not a function of cerebral prowess. R&D is a function of money.
Yes.
So the more you put in money insofar as the R&D is concerned, a lot of things will fall into place.
Right.
I
You
guess
raised
that's
that
the way it
most
is.
important question of vitamin M, Colonel Avasthi. And Shankar, I'm going to ask you, who's going to pay for this? I mean, this seems to be a fantastic plan, but like as Colonel Avasthi said, there needs to be money. Who's going to fund it? Of course, R&D spends, we have among the lowest R&D spends in the world. We need to bring, boost that. So it's really a function of money. Where do you see this coming from?
Look, I don't think money is an issue. You can raise money from people.
Right.
People will fund it. See, that's the next thing. So you need to carry out reforms. Reforms are not only about procedures. So you have to carry out financial reforms. Right? What is financial reform the way I look at it? You have to unshackle your government way of doing things, privatize more. You can't say, I will do this only with DPSUs. Right? You need to give it to the private people. And the private people also have to be encouraged. Okay, you go for a special IPO, raise money, but you will use this only for this. The risk factor. The Here, very, 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 very funnily, our private sector has to come in because they are the biggest laggards. I'm making a
Right.
statement. Our private sectors are profit oriented. They're not research oriented. They want paisa. In fact, the government is prone to take more risks in R&D. Okay, and they have invested more into R&D than the private sector. We keep talking, privatize, private sector will do everything, but I think in these strategic issues where technology they have to get, and this is the case in other countries, isn't it? Technology is being made in private sectors. It's not made by government. Government can give you fundamental funding, but to take that forward, the private sector has to invest. And for that, the people have to invest. There's no opportunity for me to invest in R&D because there's no structure for R&D where I can invest. I wouldn't mind investing into R&D, right? I mean, if you look at the Chinese model, I'm taking the Chinese model because there is a desperate model at this point of time, but they keep giving out bonds for everything. They keep taking out bonds for everything. Their infrastructure is funded by bonds. Their R&D is funded by bonds. A whole lot of things in China today are through bonds. Who buys those bonds? The people. Why are people buying their bonds? Because they have a high rate of saving, they're not spending. I mean, China has a different story, right? But bonds. So special purpose bond, special purpose vehicle, we have to think through this. That's why I said you need to have a master plan. One big thing about this whole story is finances. How you create financial equities for everyone to gain out of this. Because as you make technology, and if there is civil military fusion, the byproducts and the profits of that will go to the people back. It will go back to the people who invest. But if you want only investment, see, like something very profound, what the Prime Minister said yesterday. We don't have our own, Twitter or everything. We don't have.
No social media platforms even.
No social media platforms of our own. You don't have Twitter, you don't have Facebook, you don't have WhatsApp. Okay. The one thing which came up well, coup. You remember during COVID time, the coup came up and a Bangalore-based startup which went well. But unfortunately, no one took it. The government didn't own it.
The government didn't post on coup. I mean, they didn't open their accounts.
Yeah. If, for example, like in China, now China insisted, the PRC insisted that people should go on WeChat and Weibo. So, in case our government says, okay, hereafter tomorrow, revive coup. It's not great that platform still exists. Revive coup and everything to do with the government will go through coup. Right? And come on coup and let's propagate coup. It'll come back again. You have a platform. So there's an equity, that's technology. That whole story of technology, you can port it to something else.
Right.
See, the moment you have things like this, after all, how did Ukraine use their apps? They had a Dia app, which the Dia app was all about complaining to people or the civic complaints and things like that. So civic services. That civic services app was repurposed for ISR app.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, the same
one
thing.
One of the greatest examples of civil-military fusion in recent years.
Fusion there. So if you have your own homegrown apps, which we don't have, right? And it is not as if people don't have. Every corporation, even every municipal corporation today has an app by which you can do all those things. You integrate it, make it in a national grid, put things, get your own, WhatsApp, get your own things and go. Let's go. And you can also use these foreign firms. No problem. You say, okay, make WhatsApp India. Tell them to come and make WhatsApp India with the 50-50 equity. So there's a whole lot of things which can be done by the government. But in this, the government has to think out of the box. One, and secondly, the private people have to come in. And this is where the issue of civil-military fusion is required. It is not civil-military cooperation.
Right.
It is civil-military fusion. Right? You have to fuse your thing. For example, you have a logistics kind of a network coming up. Can you leverage this logistics network for the army? Right. Something like what you're doing in border roads. There's fusion there. Right? You're developing the border through these roads and infrastructure, and you're using it for your mobilization also. So that's part of the story. Same imagination, you have to bring it to other sectors. Okay, whole lot of things can happen. And all this needs a networked approach. If
Right.
you, for example, the way you have to, like I said, the way you have to give a coverage for an airport, and the way you have to give coverage for a hospital, or the way you have to give coverage to a sabji mandi is three different things. But what part will be given to the sabji mandi, what part will be given to the hospital, what part will be given to an air force base or a civil airport are different. But if you can network them, if you can network them, and through normal day-to-day utilities, then you have something going.
Right.
Look, you had tremendous achievements through UPI, Aadhaar. These are things which have happened in the matter of under a decade. So, is there case for us to do all this? We have the expertise. We have to have the thought process to put this all in. That's my view. I am very sure it can be achieved.
Can be achieved in the timelines that we've put to ourselves 10 years. Colonel Avasthi, you think that this is achievable? Even Mark 1, if it's done by 2035, will be quite an achievement, would it not?
See, Sandeep, I think it is achievable. What important point has been brought out now is, see, all these, incentives that the government gives, various schemes which come through various stakeholder engagement, which are outstanding. Actually, you look at all the schemes, especially in the last 3 to 4 years, each one of them is outstanding. But the issue is that these incentives have to come along with the guardrails now. That is one. That is
Right.
my personal view. The second thing is, see, while I do not say that profit is a bad word, I don't say that profit is a bad word, but you have to pitch in. The private sector actually needs to pitch in at a very large scale now, at a large scale insofar as the R&D is concerned, insofar as, as part as of the bigger national effort which is concerned. This 2% CSR is not the narrative that you need to work in a country which is, 1.4 billion people. You're one-sixth of humanity, and you're looking at some CSR. I mean, it's archaic. What can you do with 2%? That is this the if this is the metric of private sector as part of a part of giving the money back to the society, I think
Nation
then
building.
then
Yes.
there is something amiss.
Yes.
So this entire, firstly, the thinking has to change. The second part is, while I do not say, see, you are in it for a particular business case. The business case has to transcend into a profit. Fine, there is no problem on that, which is good. Which that's the way the economy works. There's no problem in that. But then, if you're only looking at only incentivization and only incentivization, I think then there is a little issue. Now, the same thing does not happen in various countries abroad. What General Shankar brought out is very correct. It doesn't happen that way. The second part is the innovating part of the system. Now, how do you innovate? You innovate in this country where you make a particular thing, you reach a particular TRL level, and then either you are looking at somebody buying you out, or you diminish yourself because you reach a particular level of innovation and it ends there. If this is the way you are going to be functioning in the next 10 years, then I'm afraid there's a problem. Because you have to stop your thinking. If you are a startup today, your innovation has to go beyond TRL lines. You have to keep innovating and keep it's as we speak, Sandeep, so many times, spiral development. That is the
Yes.
whole idea. So
Right.
if you don't do
Absolutely.
that and you reach a particular level and somebody buys you out, then where is the innovation then? Then there's no innovation. So there's going to be a paradigm shift which is going to be required in terms of how you think of innovation, how you're putting in incentivization with guardrails, how the private sector has to go beyond CSR if you want to get into various kind of fundings for these high tech projects. And of course, then of course, as there is no dearth of money. You are the fourth largest economy in the world. You are
Right.
running the way you have to. You have the power of your market. You have the power of your demography. You have the part of your yeah, and let's also I'll just take 30 seconds more. How do the markets run? Frankly, markets don't run because of the numbers. It's not the 1.4 billion people. It is on aspirations. You
And
have
sentiment. Yeah.
the youngest population in the world. The youngest population will have aspirations till 2040.
Right.
Your aspirations and my aspirations and Jungle Shankar's aspirations at 28 were very different from what we have it now.
Yes.
So if they're aspirations, the market will always run. So either way, the private sector has to understand this basic metric and go beyond CSR. Please, and these guys have to be told that fine, your profits are all right, okay, but then please contribute in R&D, please contribute in innovations, please be a part of the national mission. And this is not only a couple of those 12, 13 corporations that we are looking at.
Right.
You're looking at MSMEs. They are your backbone. They also have to now get up
Of course.
and be a part of the process. If that doesn't happen, then I think 10 years is a little foggy, if I may say.
Right. I don't know. I'm aware that you're speaking from experience, Colonel Avasthi. Your tenures at the Defense Ministry, you've helped kickstart the Make in India programs in the Defense Ministry. Very, very speaking from a lot of experience there. But General Shankar, this vision that Colonel Avasthi is given for the private sector to really kick in and start making a difference, contribute more, build more products, and focus on R&D and all that. What do you see as the government's enabling missions next to allow this to happen? This ease of doing business. We've heard that a lot, but the kind of feedback that we get from the ground is very far from what the aspirations are. So how do you ensure that this new mission, this new technology mission, as both of you have just described, it is far beyond what we thought it was yesterday? How do you implement this by incentivizing the private sector to be part of this whole mission, without which there is absolutely no way this can actually be realized?
The private sector has to have an incentive, as simple as that. They have to have a profit motive, right? And it's very simple. And the moment that happens, things will happen. It's not as if we don't have examples of that. Look, again, I go back to COVID. During COVID time, everyone was incentivized to get money out of the system, and so that everyone got vaccinated. So the same model is available, and that was put into place within a matter of 1 year, right? Vaccines, the way they were dispatched to various people, the way it was given to people who wanted to get it done at private places, everything, the works, So we have a model. I don't think that would be an issue, but the way government goes about doing things is the issue. And I think in this, I think the Prime Minister has got a very clear idea, at least the way he's enunciated it. So let's see how it gets rolled out.